I did a video recently where I noted similarities between the cover of Maiden's 1984 album Powerslave and the cover of Earth, Wind & Fire's album All in All from 1977. I thought it'd be fun to check out other examples of album covers that bands were accused of stealing from other artists. Were these parodies, ripoffs, or tributes? Heck, some of them may have been coincidences. Watch this video and decide for yourself. The cover of Gorillaz' 2005 album Demon Days is an obvious tribute to the Beatles album Let It Be, released back in 1970. For those not in the know, Gorillaz are a virtual band and Demon Days was their second release. On the cover, we see side profiles of its fictional members, vocalist 2D, bassist Murdoch Nichols, guitarist and keyboardist Noodle, and drummer Russell Hobbs. Of course, the Beatles cover showcases John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Interestingly, the Beatles cover does not include the band's name, but the Gorillaz cover does. The artwork to The Clash's third album, London Calling, is iconic. It features a black and white image of bassist Paul Simonon smashing his Fender Precision bass at the Palladium Club in New York City. With its pink and green lettering and black and white photo, the cover took direct inspiration from Elvis Presley's self-titled debut, released back in 1956. The Elvis record spent 10 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Top Pop Albums chart. It was the first rock and roll album to make it to the top of the charts. In a 2011 interview, The Clash's Paul Simonon explained that he smashed his bass out of frustration when he learned that the bouncers at the concert weren't allowing audience members to stand up out of their seats. The Clash's connections to the Elvis record do not end at London Calling. In 1995, the band Big Audio Dynamite used the same image scheme for their album F-Punk. Big Audio Dynamite, of course, was fronted by former Clash guitarist Mick Jones. It was a tribute to a tribute of a rock and roll original. This is the cover of the international edition of Britney Spears' debut album, Baby One More Time. The cover of the 1999 release shows the singer looking into the camera with her hands in front of her face. Now check out the cover to Bjork's album called Debut, which came out in 1993, 6 years before the Britney album. Both Britney and Bjork are striking very similar poses. The similarities are probably a coincidence, or maybe not. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. The cover of Motley Crue's 1981 debut album Too Fast for Love pays direct homage to the Rolling Stones' Sticky Fingers. The Motley Crue record features a close-up of Vince Neil's crotch. It's not exactly fine art, but hey, it is what it is. The Stones cover, meanwhile, features a similar close-up of a man whose tight jeans don't leave much to the imagination. The Stones image was created by artist Andy Warhol and reinforces the innuendo of the album's title, Sticky Fingers. It was quite controversial at the time for obvious reasons. Some people were none too happy with the packaging, but for a different reason. Retailers complained that the zipper damaged the vinyl or the record playing surface when the albums were stacked during shipping. As a solution, the zipper was unzipped slightly to the middle of the record where damage would be minimized. Speaking of Motley Crue, some folks swear the alternative cover of the 1983 album Shout at the Devil was another homage to the Beatles' Let It Be. I guess you see the 4 guys and the 4 boxes, but I don't know. Was it or wasn't it? You decide. Let me know in the comments. Did you hear about this one? A few years ago, Courtney Love accused pop singer Olivia Rodrigo of ripping her off. I'm cheating a bit here because the controversy wasn't over an album cover per se, but rather a promo shot. Check this out. Here is Hole's 1994 album Live Through This. And here is the promo shot of Olivia Rodrigo. It shows her wearing a tiara and holding a bouquet of roses with traces of mascara running down her face. Courtney called out Rodrigo on social media saying, "Stealing an original idea and not asking for permission is rude." Rodrigo responded to Courtney writing, "Love you and live through this so much." And that was that. Kiss Destroyer is one of my favorite album covers of all time. It features Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Ace Frehley, and Peter Criss standing atop some rubble with destroyed buildings in the background. 80s metal band Manowar must have liked it too because they ripped it off for the 1987 release Fighting the World. I don't know, no disrespect to Manowar, but I don't think they pull it off quite as well as Kiss. Could be me, could just be me. Regardless, Kiss can't get too upset about the tribute or the ripoff or whatever you want to call it. Back in 1973, Paul, Gene, and company sorta, kinda borrowed inspiration from the Beatles for the cover of their self-titled debut album, which looks very similar to Meet the Beatles. But let's be honest, many bands took inspiration from that Beatles cover. My favorite has to be the Residents parody of Meet the Beatles. Check this out, I love it. Here's another one I wasn't aware of. Some folks swear the cover of Led Zeppelin's 1975 album Physical Graffiti ripped off Jose Feliciano's 1973 album Compartments. The Zeppelin cover depicts two side-by-side tenement buildings, am I saying that right? Tenement buildings located at 96 and 98 St. Mark's Place in New York's East Village. Astronaut Neil Armstrong, Elizabeth Taylor, King Kong, the Virgin Mary, Judy Garland, and the members of Led Zeppelin themselves are among the faces peering out the windows. I go into more detail about this album artwork in another video I did on album covers in real life. I'll leave a link to that playlist below this video. Alright, contrast the Zeppelin cover to Compartments. Compartments also shows a brick building with faces peering out the windows. I wouldn't call it a ripoff or plagiarism, but there certainly are some similarities. Here's a fun one. Remember Phil Collins' album But Seriously from back in 1989? The album was huge, hitting #1 in both the UK and the US. David Byrne, the Talking Heads frontman, was obviously moved by the record. Check out the cover of his 2004 album, Grown Backwards. It's a very cool tribute to Phil Collins. Speaking of tributes, Eminem showed some love for the Beastie Boys with the cover of his 2018 release Kamikaze, an obvious nod to the License to Ill album. The Eminem album cover depicts a fighter pilot flipping the bird and intentionally crashing an F-86 Sabre fighter jet into an unknown object. Eminem has cited the Beastie Boys as an influence, but apparently did not ask for their permission before copying their album cover. By the way, if you read the letters on the plane's tail backwards, it says, "Suck it." And of course, you also see FU too. On the Beastie Boys' original release, the plane's serial number in reverse reads, "Eat Me." Alright, I saved the best for last. It's a rite of passage for record collectors to pick up a copy of Whipped Cream and Other Delights by Herb Alpert, Tijuana Brass. The 1965 album is a staple of thrift stores throughout North America. You have a copy in your collection, don't you? I think I have one or two, but I have no idea where I've placed it. Soul Asylum parodied the album on the cover of their 1988 EP called Clam Dip and Other Delights. Apparently, it was a humorous nod to their new record label, A&M, which was co-founded by none other than Herb Alpert. The Soul Asylum cover shows bassist Carl Mueller in a similar pose to the original model, Dolores Erickson. Apparently, in order to achieve the shot, Mueller had to sit for hours in a foul-smelling combination of sour cream, paint, whipped cream, and seafood. Gross, man. That sounds disgusting. Alright, 33ers, what are some other album cover ripoffs? Let me know in the comments. I may use your suggestions in a future video. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep on spinning.